so a lot of students. It has got the oldest university in Germany, I think also the most famous university, which had been built up in 1386, so in the 14th century. But the building of that time doesn't exist anymore. But in town there's the old building of the university. Outside there are most part of the 9 faculties. Inside of town only the arts faculties around this old building of the university. Now this building you see there straight on the left side, this glass building, it belongs to the Heidelberger Druckmaschinen, one of the best printing machines they produce in the world. And over here in this glass building they have got the administrative and research facilities. The production plant of the printing press, it's outside. So over here they are discussing the latest news in technology. On the right side you see a lot of bicycles. That's the main train station of Heidelberg. And its favorite. Young people move especially on with bicycles, and in most student towns in Germany you see always a lot of bicycles. And if somebody miss our bus later on, don't hope so, until yet it didn't happen. But from here, from the main train station, every hour there will be a train back to Frankfurt. So now more about the university. In town there are 4 Max Planck institutes. Max Planck Institute, so well known, and about astronomy, medicine, international law and nuclear research. And also in town they have got the center, the German Center of Cancer Research. And in town they also have got the European Laboratory for Microbiology. So you have seen it's not too far away, the international airport, and it's easy for people who want to make investigations in town, who want to give lectures, lessons, to move on to Heidelberg. We will visit the castle, which is like 80 meters above town, and afterwards we will be downtown and walk around. There is a famous bridge, the stone bridge. There are 2 famous churches, the old university. Around 1200 that traders, fishermen, handicrafters settled down over here. They haven't got too much space because right side there's a mountain area and left side you will see later on there's the river Neckar. And so they built up their houses long and narrow. Town again on the same medieval ground plan, but not anymore in this Baroque style. later on we will pass again. You can see the light will be different. This man over there, the 16th century. So what you see over here, that's a funicular, but it's a modernized. You see a modernized crane. Restaurant, playgrounds, different things to do. But we will not move to the top. Not today.
Oh, okay, go with your group.
Steward of the Scottish line, and her father had been the first king of England, so a famous family. Now I would like to buy the tickets over there, and
otherwise we'll be on the train.
거기 바깥에 좀더 보는 거
Prince Elector. Over here, in this area, there resided different princess electors from the 14th century onwards, and some of them built their own palaces. So you will see the palaces in different styles. They haven't got same unifying ground plane. They haven't got same building style. So for that, it's different over different centuries. And this one, the oldest one, you see, that's typical Gothic style. You don't see a lot of decoration. You see over there two coat of arms and nearly nothing more. Only over the entrance there, you see sculpture. And we call it, it's a masterpiece of work, of artwork of Gothic. Because in Gothic, not such a lot of artwork. Like later on Renaissance style, really different. And a masterpiece of work, there's a small story about it, that the architecture on this building, he had got two sons, and during working on this palace, his two sons died. So he was so sad, he stayed every day in house, at home. He didn't leave anymore, he couldn't work anymore on the palace. It hadn't finished at that time. So one night he has got a dream
And in his dream he saw his two sons, but now like twin-like angels, like you see there. It's a sculpture. And he made every night a vase of flower, always put in white flowers. White, it's called sadness. And then next morning, when he woke up after he has got his dream, he saw the flowers change the colors. And they sculpture like this, what we call nowadays, it's a masterwork. Inside of the vase, you see there's a pair of compasses. And compasses, this pair of compasses you see over there, that's a symbol for the architectures in the Middle Age. I just told it's a masterpiece of sculpture. This is Gothic style, 14th century, this palace. Wow. So we'll take you now to the next one. The next building over there, that had been the house for the housewives. They have got a lot of servants. So now the two most striking buildings, the two most beautiful buildings over here in the palace. I told you here in this castle there live different princess electors. And they belong to the most known, most famous family in Germany. Also, some of the forebears there as sculptures on this facade belong to this family. The family called Wittelsbach family. And from the 13th century onwards, 13th until 14th century, Bavaria, which is more to the south, belonged also to this region. Palatinate it's called over here. Palatinate and more to the south, Bavaria. So a huge area. And different dukes and counts and kings reigned over here. And in the first century, 13, 14, the king of Bavaria, he reigned also over here, but then they separated. But belonged from that time onwards until the 18th to one family, to this Wittelsbach family. And it had been a castle here in the 8th century, 9th century, 9th century. He founded also the town of Frankfurt, and he started to build the so-called Holy Roman Imperium that had been Germany in former times. Other parts of other countries now in Europe belonged to this huge reign he built up, area he built up. And that had been Charlemagne. There on the left side you see the highest row, the upper row, left side with a green sword in his hand, an apple in the other hand, apple with a cross over there. That's a symbol for this Holy German or Holy Roman Imperium, like they call it, and a crown on his hand, on his head. So Charlemagne, the most important, most famous one. So the second row you see over there to the left side, that had been Ruprecht I, the founder of the university and the builder of the oldest building over there. And the lower row, there to the right side, that's Frederick V, the builder of this palace. If you look at the palace, you see the lower row, the windows are different. They are like church windows or chapel windows. And why? Just as an idea. Inside there is a chapel. And when he tried to build up this palace, there had been no space. Everything occupied with different palaces. So there had been a chapel, and he asked the Pope in Rome, in the Vatican, if he can pull down the chapel. So he allowed, and he had got the order to build up a new chapel. So he integrated in his palace the chapel. So still today, inside of this part, the lower part, there is this chapel he built up. And the upper part had been his living room, so his residential area. And the monuments you see outside, the sculptures, that are not the original ones. Since the 19th century, they took out and put them inside because of the atmospheric pollution. So not to destroy, which is eating stone by stone, yes? And if you compare now of that building over there, you see it's similar. They are really similar. The difference is that one, it's only 50 years younger, nothing more. It's only 50 years younger, from mid of the 16th century, built by Otto Henry II, another one, another Prince Elector. And you see the sculptures, they are finer. They are Renaissance style, and there's more decoration. That's Renaissance style. So they make everything more monumental, the sculptures, like bursting out of the walls. Yes? And so served like a model for this one. And the architecture or the builder had been the Prince Elector by himself. He ordered, he gave on his ideas how to build up this palace. He had been before in Italy, and Italy had been famous in that time, filled up with Renaissance palaces and churches. And he got the inspiration over there, came back to Heidelberg and ordered to build up this palace. So if you look there to the sculptures, lower row from left to right, you see the 4 heroes of the Old Testament and also of the Greek Old Antiquity. Left starting, that's Joshua, next to him Samson. And right side of the entrance there, that's Joshua, Samson, Hercules. Hercules is of the Greek Antiquity, so the hero of the Greek Antiquity. And the last one to the right side, that's David, also of the Old Testament, who is carrying the head of Goliath in his hand, of the giant Goliath. The row above that are the 5 virtues. And you see women figures. Starting left side, the first one, it's virtue for strength, for power. The next one, it's for faith. She got the Bible in her hand. In the middle, it's for love, with a baby in her arms. Next one, it's hope. She is looking towards the sky. And the last one, it's justice, the goddess for justice, or the virtue justice. And above that, the third row, that are also gods of antiquity, which had been considered planets. They had been joined with planets, planets which they already knew in that time, so in the 16th century. And starting again from left to right side, first one, it's Saturn, left side, next one Mars, the war god. In the middle, it's Venus, the love goddess. Next one, Mercury, it's the lightning god. And last one, on the right side, that's Diana for the crescent moon. So with the symbol of the mussel, it's for the crescent moon. And above all, that are Apollo or Sol, that's for sun, the sun god, and Jupiter for the moon god, symbols for the moon god. And his idea had been, so why he put heroes of Bible, of antiquity, of the old heroes, also with the 5 virtues, and everything above the eyes, under the eyes of the god of the planets, I will reign over here very well my Palatinate, my region. So this idea he put there on the facade. Also, the original ones are inside. The lower row, it's closed with a roof. Yes, and you see there's an entrance. There's a so-called Apothecary Museum. It has got the biggest collection worldwide, and it's a present of the Bayer company, the biggest pharmacy company in the world, the United States company. And they handled over the line. This dynasty hasn't got a son, so they didn't know what to do in the first days. And they put later on to another, to a connected line, dynasty line. But he didn't agree. So the French king, Ludwig XIV, he didn't agree. Also his sister-in-law, she didn't agree with King Ludwig. She said, let this town to the other line. But he came over to town, and first he destroyed the castle, at the end.
Many, many places. The one on the left here, he was 76 when he founded Heidelberg University. And he put it right on it.
More to the north, it joins also the River Rhine. Same thing, like most of the rivers in Germany. And opposite side over there, you see there are some vineyards. Yes, I will show you afterwards now. I will show you the biggest wine barrel you ever will see. It's the biggest one in the world. And there you see a pathway opposite also on the mountain area. That's the so-called philosopher walk. And in the 18th, 19th century, there have been a lot of composers, poets, also the most famous, Wolfgang Goethe. He had been here and they got inspiration for their music, for their novels, for their poems they have written down. And they called it also, Goethe called this bridge the romantic bridge. So until nowadays it's called the romantic bridge. It had been built up in the 18th century, this stone bridge. Before there had been 9 different bridges, but always made of wood. And with the time, ice flows, in wintertime high water level, in springtime also took away with the time always these wooden bridges. So this stone bridge now it's from the 18th century. And downtown, where we will be later on, that's the center part, where you see over there this church, the Holy Ghost Church, Protestant church. And left side of this, you see like one line street. That's the main street. It's nearly 2 kilometers long. And it's a shopping street, a pedestrian one. But on Sunday, the normal shops are closed. So souvenir shops, restaurants, cafe bars, coffee shops are open. That's a Catholic church. It had been formerly the Jesuit church, so from the religious order of the Jesuits. But from 1936 onwards, the Catholic. Before they joined together, Catholic and Protestants, inside their masses, inside of this church, the Holy Ghost Church, in the middle part of town. A line street, you see to the right side a building with a high sloping roof, a white building, red framed windows, and a high sloping roof with a small clock tower on the top. A small clock tower. So a little bit to the right of and one tells that in the Middle Ages, during case of fire, which happened often, a knight in his full armor, so iron armor. The other Legion story, maybe you can imagine what happened. there had been, it's told, this knight, same knight, had been the lover of the wife of one of the princess electors. And I think you know how the story goes on. So the husband, he came back, and they didn't expect the husband. So what to do? He had to jump out. Yes, and also he could run away, and he left behind his boot print. But imagine the boot of iron boot, so must be bigger, but it's a small one. No, and that's in
Wow.
This is a wine cellar. From the 14th century onwards, when they built up the first building, they built up this wine cellar. And the wine, you have seen vineyards all around this area, different vineyards. And the people who harvest the wine, they had to pay to the prince elected 10% of their harvest. So 10% of the wine production they handed over. So the princess electors had to store. And they built up these wine cellars, and over centuries different wine barrels, all made of oak wood. And it's told the whole capacity they have got over here in the wine cellars, 700,000 liters. So a lot of, can't imagine, such a lot of 700,000 liters of wine in different wine barrels. And the daily consumption of the princess electors and their guests and their family had been 2,000 liters every day, 2,000 liters. And that had been in that time, in the Middle Age, they took wine like water, because water often had been spoiled, and it's true. They took also wine keeps healthy, wine keeps you young, and wine makes you happy. So also in the centuries past, they told. And the biggest one, thus there's another group, the biggest one contains 221,726 liters, 58,000 US barrels, US gallons or barrels. And can't imagine how much wine it is. So I calculated with the average consumption. With the average consumption of 24 liters. One person has to drink 9,200 years until he will finish this big barrel. Nobody will get the taste, so no chance, no. And over there, that's the biggest one. We have to wait one moment because the other group is coming down. This barrel is the biggest in the world. In the world, yes. And it's made of 130 oak trunks of oak tree, yes. And over 2.5 years, in the midst of the 18th century, they built up. And 2.5 years, 40 people worked on this barrel, and they've got a hole there on the top where they filled in the wine, and above there's a small door. You see there where it's written down names, that's a small door. That had been the entrance door for people, for a small person who entered and who cleaned with water inside, yes, always when the barrel had been empty. Time to the pumping room. The pumping room had been above this barrel, above this room, on the same level as the king hall, so the banqueting hall. So all the time they got their glasses topped with wine, and the servants hadn't all the time going down, taking up the wine. So, and you will see still the rest of this pumping mechanism still exists. And down there you will see also a small person, a statue of a person holding a glass in its hand. and it's the so-called Perkeo. Perkeo, it's a person, the prince elector who built this barrel. He met him in Italy, and he took him to Heidelberg, and he told him, you will be my wine taster, you will be also the guardian of my big tune, of my barrel. And it's told every day he took 2 bottles of wine because he had to taste. And the constantly question to him had been always, do you want another glass of wine? And he always, because he didn't talk in German, he talked Italian language, he always said perché no. So they handed him over the name Perkeo. Why not? Perché no? It's why not. ¿Se habla español? Pero se entiende también inglés. Okay. De vez en cuando hablo también en español.
En español.
Muchas gracias.
Vamos por arriba.
Sí, me gusta. So there you see the entrance door. It's a small one, yes. And if somebody would like to pull the ring, please. Only to pull with your hand. This one. You have to pull.
Yes, okay.
So that's a joke he made. He invented this box with the tail of a fox, yes, and also with a bell. So it's told people got shocked in that time they didn't know about jokes. Today is another thing. So. Now it's empty, yes. They have got different but now it's your free time.
This is good.
Keine Naturwissenschaftlerin und habe Chemie nach 2 Jahren abgegeben, muss ich zu meiner Schande gestehen. Aber naja, falls es wirklich historische Themen gibt oder so, also ihr schon mal von was gehört habt, kann ich versuchen, das zu beantworten. No camera, no pictures, please. No. Look at the side.
Name Heidelberg, which does it mean? It's an adaptation of Blueberry Hill. So if you are here in September, October, you will see in the mountain area a lot of blueberries growing. Really delicious. You can collect by yourself. And because there are so many, they called Blueberry Mountain. Blueberry, it's Heidelbeere. So Heidelbeere, it's an adaptation. Heidelberg. Berg, it's hill, it means hill, so the mountain of the blueberries. And opposite side of the river Neckar, there's an archaeological garden. There had been the Celt people coming from the northern part of Europe here to Heidelberg and building up a military camp and a worship place opposite of town 2,500 years ago, so 5th century before Christ. And nearby Heidelberg they founded also the oldest evidence of human life, a small bone in a gravel pit, and they estimated the skeleton to an age of 600,000 years. Oldest evidence of human life in that time when they found it, so at the beginning of the 20th century they found it in Europe, so the oldest one. So I remember you now, backside of the church, St. Peter's Church, you see the beautiful facade of the old library of the 19th century. It's now the library of the university. And inside of the library they have got a famous book collection, which this book collection formerly had been there. Now you see the entrance gate to Old Town. It had been built up also in the 18th century, and down there had been two prison room and three prison room, no, down two prison houses, mansions, villas of town. It's the most expensive area of town. There's also the parental house of our tennis star, Steffi Graf of the German tennis star. I will show you later on when we leave downtown, when we leave town. So we will be together now first also downtown. I will show you around, then you have got afterwards free time, same thing. At 1:45 our bus will leave over there, here at this place, but I will give you another meeting point in downtown, yes? And when we come back, then I will handle you over your lunchbox. That will be sandwiches, 2 sandwiches and juice and an apple. So here in the bus you will get your dinner, your lunch, sorry. So now we will get out.
Downtown had been surrounded by a huge wall, by a ring wall, all the town, yes? Over here in that place, there had been, for this, it's to remember, there had been like a fountain when they entered town. So in formerly times, they haven't got cars. They went to town with horse carts or riding on horses, and they have got over here the water. They serve the water to the horses when they enter town. So, take you to the bridge, then I will take you downtown. Yeah?
Gehen, aber nicht stehen. Gehen, aber nicht stehen. Irgendwann ja. Rübergehen. Ja, ich gehe noch. Ja,
You have got the view, because over there they make a movie. They want that people will.
So, meine Damen und Herren, wir sperren bitte die Brücke jetzt. Please leave.
Bollywood. So it's like Bollywood. An Indian movie, they told me. Yes, it's closed. They wanted people to...
Ist das hier für ein Affentheater?
Because they need the whole bridge, they told me.
We saw them yesterday filming downtown.
Yeah, but it's not good.
Yeah, but that's not their, you know?
There is no, yeah.
No, I mean, they can't.
So please stay with me. Some 5 minutes. Afterwards you have got your time for shopping, but because I have to show you also the meeting point.
Yes.
It's a little more.
Blew around.
Yes. Wow. Are you are here in Germany or?
Yes, we're in Frankfurt.
But you will stay.
We leave tomorrow.
Ah, tomorrow.
This will be later on our meeting point. It's a big fire in the 17th century, at the end of the 17th century. It had been the house of a trader here in town, a rich tradesman. And nowadays it's the most famous hotel in town. You see this facade, it's similar to that of the Otto Henry Palace there at the castle, yes? And that's in Renaissance style. All the other buildings in town, also churches, Gothic style, but all the other buildings are Baroque style. Baroque style, it's like this, framed windows. Until 1936, Catholic people and Protestant people joined together the religious services inside of the church. They put a huge wall between core and nave, and one side for the Catholic people, other side for the Protestant Lutheran people. And different times they got their masses inside, so it's functional, it was possible. And yes, that's when other houses haven't got this decoration. That's Baroque style. Normally the windows framed.
But they built the same time
No.
or different time.
This is built up
earlier.
16th century.
16th century.
And the others 18th century, so 200 years later. And the only house, there had been a fire in town and everything burned down. A huge, huge fire. Not that house, only one house, not still keeping it. You enter inside by yourself. You can enter not in group maybe, but you can walk inside by yourself later on. You cross the back part is really difficult because it's an old house. And other side you can get out of.
So don't.
Heidelberg.
Over there, that's where you see the Catholic Church. Catholic Church. It's also possible to enter, yes. So the doors are open, you can enter, you have to buy, you have to pay an entry fee. It's different to the other, because they made a lot of monasteries, they built up a lot of monasteries, churches in the whole world, yes, and they got a lot of power. So, because a lot of competence here. Aber für mein
tollen Dinge.
Also ein Bärlauch, wenn es den Braten habt, dann jetzt nicht Bär machen, das müssen wir rausbringen.
Also der Tiki Baby ist hier. Der Tiki. Der türkische Tiki.
größer, das wusste ich schon.
But the biggest in Cologne, 60,000 students in Cologne. Over here, there you see the figure, that's Struwwelpeter student castle. That's the prison of the students, or in former times, the castle of the students. Must be open, I think, since beginning of April. Today it's the 1st of April. They opened to the students. But the students like this one, yes. That's the old university. From
older
18th century.
The older one.
Yes, the older one. The new university is outside of the town, yes? Yes, but this is the old one from 18th century, so now over 200 years old, yes? And inside there's a museum, but inside there are also the rooms of the chancellor, of the university, of the president. He also has inside. And inside there's also a famous hall, the old hall, a beautiful hall. Also like 200 years old, and there are normally chamber music, other. Here had been visited Martin Luther, the reformator of the church, had been over here in town, at this monastery of the Augustinian, which had been before here, with the teachers, the professors of the university. He was the first man who loud gave criticism on Catholic Church, and
Ich habe ja, du kriegst zum Christel, ja?
Jahren leer steht, haben ein paar Linke besetzt als neues autonomes Zentrum. Und am nächsten Tag, als sie da waren, also am nächsten Tag nach der Besetzung, kam dann morgens das Sonderkommando und hat die dann auch alle rausgeraubt. Also die Polizei ist hier, was Baden-Württemberg angeht, das ist ziemlich krass. Mein Gott, Baden-Württemberg und Bayern sind auch die einzigen Bundesländer, denen es erlaubt ist, mit Gummigeschossen gegen Demonstranten vorzugehen.
So if you want to have a look on the church, there's the entrance. 500
Schreibe.
company. The company you work for took him to his personal business.
Very, very nice.
Yes. You want another picture?
My battery is.
Nowadays, that one, it's a marketplace. Yes. You see over there the state of a Madonna figure, like a queen, yes, with a crown on the top. And it's in the 18th century that, or from the 16th century onwards, there had been the Reformation. So some Protestants, some Catholic people in town, and the dynasty had been Catholic, but two princes elected. And to convince most Protestant people in town, Lutheran people, they put on their this pink Madonna.
Yeah, everybody got it.
Oh, you do.
Now, this huge building you see there on the left side, that's where they stored all the gunpowder. The windows are closed. So that house, it's where the windows are closed.
So I will take it this side. You have got more space. I will ask you something. Yes, the tour ends at the office, yes, nearby the train station.
No, I mean this one.
Ah, this one. No, we are not passing the train station. It's inside that direction. A little bit inside.
Museums. You can visit also on Sunday. They are open until 5 or 6 o'clock, depends on different. And it's also nice to walk alongside of the Main River. So if you walk alongside of the Main River, in 15 minutes you are in town center. And today it's an exception in Frankfurt City. All shops are open until 8 o'clock in the night. So a lot of thanks to you again for the visit of Heidelberg.